with the big video. Hi guys, hello and welcome to Paddling Places family. Well, okay, we are on Old Lake Jabberwood. So Paddling Places, Florida. I missed it. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Paddling Places, Florida. Yes, we're not on the water today. We're going to be doing something a little bit different, a modification to my brand new Wilderness Tarpon 120. We're going to be putting in anti-slick or deck pads on the boat, and I've watched a lot of information on this stuff, how to install it. So first off, you're going to need the deck pad. Now, there's a lot of deck pads out there. I wanted something that had 3M backing on it. I don't want to add or apply a glue to the base. I'd rather have it on the back of the pad that I'm going to use. Now, this stuff is not cheap. This particular sheet cost me like $32. But for the area I'm covering, it sure beats the heck out of spending $300 or $400 for a full deck system done by an outside company. Now, I did do some research on a few of the suppliers out there that supply deck pads, and what I found out was the Tarpon 120 pattern was not one of their offered off-the-shelf kits. Now, their kits are running anywhere from $350 and up, and one of the companies stated that I had to put in a pattern request. They would send me this pattern kit, which would cost me $35. I make my pattern, then I send it to them. They figure out the square inches and all this kind of stuff and figure out what it'll take to cut it and get it all put together, then send me a bid quote. So I'm looking to do a deck system on this boat, approximately $400 if I was to go outside, and that just wasn't in my budget. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you the tools required. We're going to walk through this thing, the complete installation, and we'll go from there. Now, the materials you need to put this thing all together is, of course, your deck pad, some pattern paper, a pencil, masking tape, pair of scissors, a very, very sharp carpet knife, and an X-Acto knife to get around the scupper holes. And then lastly, a bottle of isopropyl alcohol and a rag. And that's basically all you're going to need to do this job. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to build the pattern, or the process I use to build the pattern, and then how I cut it. Now, some of the instructions on the video, they're using a non-patterned deck pad, so when they pull their pattern out, they lay it on top and cut it out that way. Being this has patterns on it, I'm going to have to reverse it. So what I'm going to do on the pattern, when I finish up a pattern, I'm going to write the word top on top of the pattern, telling me to flip it over when I go to draw it on the backing part of this pad. And that way I know I have the right one. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes. So the first thing you'll want to do, and if you have a tarpon, for instance, you'll want to remove this elastic cord that goes in like this, and it's for connecting this way. You want to remove that. You want to take your pedals off so they don't get in your way for when you're in here doing your thing. Then take a piece of pattern paper, and I recommend that you tape it in place and give it a little bit of overlap here, like that. Now, the way I'm doing this may not be the way you're going to do it, but hey, that's okay. I just want to show you how I'm doing it, and then you guys can decide on if that'll work for you or not work for you. Now, one of the things you got to watch here is on the scupper holes right here. You want to make sure that you don't run your material down here when you're doing this, and same thing with this indentation here. You want to cut around those, so I'll be probably coming up like this, stopping, coming in like that, and then around the scupper hole and then back down. Now, this boat curves, it doesn't have any sharp corners here, so I'm going to basically estimate where the straight edge is, and that's why I said I was going to use this particular smaller thing, because you can see it kind of butts up and tells me when it's going to curve. So I want that straight edge to be like that, and then draw it on the paper. So what I'm going to do now is get this where I want it. I can see where it's starting to curve up. I want it to go. Now we got curvature here. So I'd recommend that you take your pencil and chart in that curve. Doesn't have to be perfect, just get it to where you know where it is, and that'll help you with guiding your cut. Okay, now same thing down here. So I'm going to get right about, see where this thing starts, just starts to curve up. Now I'm going to take my straight edge and get it drawn in place. Now this is the first pattern. What I'll do is cut it, put it into place, and see if it works exactly the way I want it to set in. So I'm lining up the straight edges again. Like that. Same thing here. You can see how much that goes up. I want it to go up a little bit, but not a lot. So I'm thinking maybe right about here. And looking at where that line is here. Now you can make an indentation with your finger. Find out where that thing bends. All I'm doing is kind of sketching over it here to give me an idea where that is. And it's kind of hard to see. Right about here is where I'm going to stop it. Now I've got another one that goes like that, so I want to again etch this in. Like this. Okay, that gives you an idea. What I'm trying to do here is to get this indentation there, and then go ahead and finish up my straight line. And we're about done with the first pattern. Then we're going to cut it and place it. We'll be repeating this process on the other side. Okay, the pattern is starting to take shape. You can see it's got the indent that's here, and it's got the scupper outline here, and it should be. Now final trimming and stuff like that may have to take place once you get it your first cut done. So the same thing here, I'm going to go in and kind of just sketch this hole. Angle's a little bit tough here. Okay, and here, then I'm going to estimate my cutoff point, like right here. And that got up too high, so I'm going to bring it down, like that. Okay, the first part of this pattern is drawn. I'm I'm just going to remove the tape and cut it and see how it looks. I may have to do this pattern more than once, I don't know. Okay, now I'll just cut out the pattern and see how we did. Now, if this boat is built exactly to the same specification, I should be able to use this pattern and just have to draw the pattern once and then just flip it on the other side, but I don't know yet. Don't know how close tolerance they are as far as manufacturing this craft. Now when you're cutting out your pattern, don't get in a hurry. Take your time, stay on the lines, because you really want this thing to look like it was professionally cut and placed into your boat. And there may be some final trimming required. I don't know. See, I'm learning as you're learning. Now, any sharp points, you may want to get rid of them on your pattern because eventually they'll lift. And so I'll probably round this off right here. But for the pattern purpose right now, getting the pattern built, I just want to go my first cut and see where we are. Okay, the pattern is cut. Now I'm going to lay it in and see how close I got. Wow, pretty close. I could make this thing go up higher like this and come down. So I'm going to do that. I want it to come up just a little bit higher. Again, this is all just trial and error to figure out where exactly we want to put this thing. But now that we have this outside line done, like that, see, there's a big difference right there. Okay, and I don't think I want to raise it that much, but just a little tiny bit. Okay, now the modification to the pattern is done. Let's see how we are now. Okay, I got a good cut here, got a good cut there. Around this hole is critical. I think we're where we need to be. You don't want to make a mistake on this stuff because it's pricey. Alright, there you go. That one's in and ready. So now what we're going to do is test the other side and see if it's the same. Now this will be, this is top left. And hopefully, if I flip this, it's going to be identical. Okay, the next part of this task, you really don't have to do this part, but I've decided to do it. I'm making a harder template for when I lay it on the board. So I took a piece of cardboard from the shipping box that the pad came in, and I'm just going to draw the pattern on here and then cut it out. And it also gives me a good straight edge to work with. So basically you're going to end up cutting this out twice, but you know, that's your decision if you want to do that or not. I'm just wanting this to be really, really nice looking. So I'm taking the pains to make it that way. And then I'll cut this pattern out here and we should be good to go. And I can use this pattern for both sides so I don't have to make two of them, which is great. Now their circles are pretty good around the scupper area. So before I complete this, I'll probably find something with the same circumference of these scupper holes to make sure that the circumference is correct. But again, you really don't have to do that. If you got a good eye, just draw them in. I just don't want any jagged edges when I lay the deck pad down. Now I'm letting that excess on the straight edge hold right there, and I'll look at it once I get it cut. I'm going to put it back in the boat again and see how it looks. I'm using the straight edge again here to make sure everything has a nice clean straight edge. So the pattern is done. It's all drawn on here. Now I'm going to cut it and get it all cut up. But one of the things I want to do is check the circumference and roundness of these part of the hand drawn. So I'm going to find something that's the same circumference and then redraw it so it's nice and clean circle. So we'll be back in just a few minutes and continue this thing on.